If I went to my place of employment, which has been the Raymond family, the Cadogan Publishing, and the Irvings in the 80s, 90s, 2000, 2010s, if I told them, well, I like working here, but I don't want to do any articles involving gay people. I'm not going to cover any fundraising event. I'm not going to cover women's hockey. I'm not going to cover, you know, boxing competitions that feature lesbians or, bodybuilding events that feature lesbians. But this, well, a lot of people consider him a comic book genius, but I never liked him. And he died recently, although his talent is there. And did a lot with Marvel. His policy in regarding to no gay characters in Marvel drew a lot of ire. Now, talking about Jim Shooter. Now, Jim Shooter, again, for a lot of people, a lot of people respect him. Born in Pittsburgh, he came up through the ranks at age 13. He was considered a boy wonder of DC Comics. Now, he basically, when in the mid-70s, after Marvel was undergoing a series of changes in the position of editor-in-chief, after Roy Thomas stepped down from his post to focus on writing, a succession of other editors, including Len Wein, Marv Wolfman, Jerry Conway, and Archie Goodwin, took the job during a relatively short period of time, only find the task too daunting as Marvel continued to grow and add new titles and a larger staff to turn out material. Now, on January 2nd, 76, which are called the X-Men era, Shooter joined the Marvel staff as an AE and writer. Now, with the quick turnover at the top, Shooter rapidly found himself rising in the ranks, and on the first working day of January 78, he succeeded Archie Goodwin to become Marvel's ninth editor-in-chief. During this period, publisher Stan Lee relocated to LA to better oversee Marvel's animation, TV, and film projects, leaving Shooter largely in charge of the creative decision-making at Marvel's New York City headquarters. Although there were complaints about some that Shooter imposed a dictatorial style on the bullpen, he cured many of the procedural ills at Marvel, successfully managed to keep the line of books on schedule, ending the widespread practice of missing deadlines, popularly known as the DDN, or the dreaded deadline doom, adding new titles and developing new talent. Shooter, in his 9-year tenure as editor-in-chief, oversaw Chris Claremont and John Byrne, who came over from Carlton Comics, running the Uncanny X-Men. Now, Byrne's work on the Fantastic Four, Frank Miller's series of Daredevil stories, Walt Simonson's crafting of Norse mythology with the Marvel Universe and Thor, and Roger Stern's runs on both Avengers and Amazing Spider-Man were under his tenure. Now, in 81, Shooter brought Marvel into the lucrative comic book specialty shop market with Dazzler 1, featuring a disco team heroine with ties to the X-Men, based upon an unmade film that had been set to star Bo Derek. The first issue of the series was sold only through specialty stores, with the imprint bypassing then standard newsstand spinner rack distribution route altogether, as recognition by Marvel of the growing comic shop sector. Subsequent issues of Dazzler were sold through newsstands, returnable accounts as well. Dazzler was the first direct sales only ongoing series for a major publisher, while other Marvel titles, such as Marvel Fanfare and Kazar, soon followed. Later that same year, Shooter wrote the classic Marvel Treasury Edition number 28, which featured a second Superman and Spider-Man intercompany crossover. Additionally, in 81, Shooter was recognized as one of 6 New Yorkers of the Year by the New York chapter of the JCs for his contributions toward revitalizing the comics industry and helping Marvel Comics achieve a new pinnacle of success. Shooter also institutionalized creator royalties, starting the Epic imprint for creator-owned material 82, introducing company-wide crossover events with Marvel Superhero Contest of Champions and Secret Wars 1 and 2, and launched a new, albeit until accessible, line named New Universe that commemorates Marvel's 25th anniversary in 86. Now, despite his success in revitalizing Marvel, and we got to talk both sides, and that's why I've never respected him, he angered and alienated a number of longtime Marvel creators by insisting on strong editorial control and strict adherence to deadlines. Although he institutionalized an arc return program and implemented a policy giving creators royalties when their books passed certain sale benchmarks, or when characters they worked on were licensed as toys, Shooter occasionally found himself in well-publicized conflicts with some writers and artists, well, quite a few. Creators such as Steve Gerber, Marv Wolfman, Johnny Byrne, and Doug Moench left to work from DC, encouraged by his new publisher, Jeanette Kahn, aggressively taking advantage of the opportunity or other companies. Now, during Shooter's tenure, again, he enforced a policy forbidding the portrayal of gay characters in the Marvel Universe. According to John Byrne, he initially had to conceal North Star's sexuality, our Alpha Flight member from Quebec, since Shooter personally told him that portraying a gay character would not be allowed. Marvel nonetheless published the first gay-themed story by a mainstream comics publisher during this time, written by Shooter himself. In it, two gay men attempt to rape Bruce Banner, which is the Hulk. Comic historian Frederick Luz Aldama says that Marvel under Shooter's tenure was widely considered homophobic. Roy Thomas, who left Marvel following a contract dispute with Shooter, reflected in 2005 on Shooter's editorial policies. When Shooter took over, for better or worse, he decided to rein things in. He wanted stories told the way he wanted them told. It's not a matter of whether Shooter was right or wrong, it's a matter of a different approach. He was editor-in-chief and a right to impose what he wanted to. I thought it was kind of dumb, but I don't think Jim was dumb. I think the approach was wrong, and I don't think it really helped anything. Now, Johnny Romita Sr. said, Shooter had been great for the first 2 or 3 years, and he went off the rails. He got the creative people treated with more respect, of course, got us sent to conventions, first class, were always paid, and he taught the world of it. Then his Secret Wars was a big hit, and after that he decided he knew everything, and he started changing everybody's stuff. Now, I believe John Byrne, because my fellow Canadian said this. Shooter came along just when Marvel needed him, but he stayed too long. Having fixed just about everything that was wrong, he could not stop fixing. Around the time he left to do Superman, John Byrne and Superman was tremendous. I said I thought Shooter and Dick Giordano should trade jobs. It was DC that needed fixing then, and do so about every 5 years a show. Shooter had put Marvel in the place where all that was needed was a kindly father figure at the helm, and that was not Shooter. Secret Wars was when the trouble really kicked into high gear. We must never forget that Secret Wars began as a toy promotion. Shooter turned it into the way to reshape the Marvel Universe in his image, and of course he was fired from Marvel on April 15th, 1987, 38 years ago. So, get this. He was only, ladies and gentlemen, only 35. So he came in, cleaned her up, and alienated everybody. Now, of course, he won an Eagle Award and Inkpot Award in 1980. But I'm glad I never worked for Jim Shooter. I've worked for some strange editors through the years who basically were either monetarily strong, bottom line, or basically editorially controlling. And yes, Jim Shooter, a good writer. He did a lot with Marvel, but like I said, after a while it gets kind of jarring. You can put up a woman that nags for a couple of years if she's good in bed, but after a while, just because you can see her naked doesn't excuse her asshole personality. Was Jim Shooter an asshole? Well, you just heard what his contemporaries said about him. And when I met Neil Adams, I didn't want to bring up about Jim Shooter, and this is how the conversation went. I asked him about Dead Man, I asked him about Green Lantern, Green Arrow, and I said, by the way, I'm not going to ask you about Jim Shooter. He said, yeah, he said, I know you're a journalist, no comment, so you figure that out from there. But all I know, ladies and gentlemen, bringing in from 1970, mid-1970s to 81, 82, Marvel was on top, some of the best comics ever was. And he was the big part of it. But then he went out the fucking rails. And not having a homosexual character, I mean, okay, come on. Was Jimmy Olsen gay in the DC Comics? Yes. You know, why would we have Jimmy Olsen's pal, bum pal, stuff like that. But to say, I don't want you to draw any gay characters, like what stopped them to not go to the media back then? Was he scared that, when the AIDS crisis was going to cause this problem? And Dazzler was very big in the gay community. We know that certain X-Men were very big in the gay community, especially Colossus and Wolverine. Very handsome men, of course, the way they were drawn. So Jim Shooter, again, he has his fans, and for those, I'm sorry to break your bubble, but, he was hired and fired by Marvel within more than a decade. And, he just stayed too long. But to say don't draw any gay characters, that's just, and maybe that what fucked up Alpha Flight, because if North Star would have come out as gay, maybe we got more publicity. Because Alpha Flight was a good concept, because you had all these aspects of Canadian, And Johnny Byrne was Canadian, and he drew everybody to look like Imperial Trudeau. Everybody looked like Trudeau. Even Wolverine. So again, Jim Shooter passed away, and like I said, he mourns a lot of people, but like I said, that asshole period, he burned his bridges with me, and that's why I'm doing the podcast. It's okay to praise somebody, but, bad decision all around. So ladies and gentlemen, if you like what you're doing here with our Pulp Tales podcast, let us know with a like, comment, subscribe, or share. Bye.